Tell me when I'm ready there, Stephanie.
All right, here we go, and I'm admitting everyone.
Oh my goodness, look at all those panels popping up. Fantastic. Okay, a few more popping in here. Just give us a couple seconds to make sure everybody's in. All right, everybody's smiling, so that's a good sign. I guess it's because we've shut everything down at 11 o'clock. Is that what's going on out there? Okay. All right. Hang on. Oh, Bennett. All right, there we go. Just bear with us, folks. A couple more minutes because we got a lot of people signing in. And that's always a good thing. I think it should be a requirement at the University of Alabama. We all have to put our pictures on. When we mute the video, we have to put our pictures up so we can put a picture with the Zoom these days. Remember, we used to associate faces with phone numbers, and then with the Zoom, we now have the Zoom interface. So, all right. Okay, look, we're going to get going here. Again, Scott Rayder here at AWI. And first of all, I want to thank everybody for getting on this morning. Let me begin by saying it's obviously an interesting day here in Tuscaloosa. I just want to tell everybody the reason I was not in town yesterday is I was hit by the blizzard in my house in Colorado over the weekend. So I'm going from 20 inches of snow into a tornadic area. So, and I was flooded out of my house in 2013, which means I'm definitely hit by a hurricane when I arrive here in the June timeframe, because there's just doesn't seem to be one natural disaster that has not followed me where I'm going. So please keep me in your thoughts as this process is going along. This morning, Mike Vermillion and I have been looking at the radar loops. And let me just say at the beginning, if at any time during this Zoom you're feeling uncomfortable or something's happening, obviously your safety is paramount. Take steps to get away and get to safety. It's going to be an interesting day. And obviously, given the fact that the alert just came out, shutting everything down at 11 o'clock, it'll change the context of some of the things that we'll be doing here. We did our last town hall when I arrived in September. And what I wanted to do is kind of go back. I don't want to do death by PowerPoint. I know everybody's had it in Zoom world with PowerPoints, but I wanted to talk about 5 kind of high level things. I'll go through those as quickly as possible. Then what we'll do is we can have a Q&A session at the end. And I think there'll be some Q&A, particularly with regard to the 2 of the topics I'm going to talk about related to Noaa and the Geological Survey. So what has AWI been up to? And this is your AWI because I work for you. So first of all, one of the things that I've been working with Mike Vermillion and Stephanie O'Neill on is finalizing our strategic plan. So we are now in the final stages of getting that done. I want to thank everybody for the input that you have provided to help us put that together. We have shared that with a number of people across various communities. They very much like it. They think it's a good step in the right direction. And, you know, I learned early in my career what interests my boss fascinates me. So Russ Mumper is interested in the strategic plan. He likes it. So this is a good sign. And if you remember, we've got these institutes inside the Office of Research and Economic Development, and we're tying the strategic plans back into that overall architecture. But the good news is obviously is that water is going to be a key component of what ORED is doing forward. Our plans are to finalize that strategic plan, put it out into the community beyond Alabama and across, I'll say, the larger hydrologic community. And then the next piece following that is going to be to establish an AWI External Advisory Board. And I want to talk a little bit about that because my vision for the AWI External Advisory Board is different. When I was at Noaa, we had a science advisory board. We had a lot of senior level people on it. And I didn't like to think of it as a scientific advisory board. I like to think of it as a science advocacy board. So what I'm looking at are for very senior level people who can help us find resources for our research in Alabama. So some of the people that I've talked to, I don't know how many are familiar with Paul Boulos. Paul is a member of the National Academy of Engineering. I would encourage you to look him up online. His last name is Boulos. I've had several talks with Paul. He's interested in serving on our board. And he's the kind of player I'm looking for because he started a company called Digital Water that does a lot of work in the urban water interfaces. So if you have names of high-level people, I'll say industry, academia, or the public sector, we have to be careful of the public sector because it can't get funding. Please send those names to myself and Mike Vermillion. Okay, we're talking to people like Sherry Goodman. Some of you might not have never heard of Sherry. Sherry was a deputy undersecretary at the Department of Defense in the Clinton administration. She was the deputy undersecretary for environment. In fact, I think she was the first one. And so Sherry is the one who's coined the term for climate change as a threat multiplier. That was her terminology. She's fantastic. We've talked to her. We know that she's interested. But we're trying to build something here so that all of you have access to this board. And let's say when we're beyond the pandemic, if you have to go and visit with a program manager in Washington, you can sit down with some of these people and get to know them. My vision of building this board for AWI is it's not something that just I talk to. I want to make sure that all of you have access. If there's something you want to know or something you want to learn, you can see that advantage to your research as well. Okay, so the strat plan, we're coming in on final. The advisory board will build out of that. The three exciting things that I want to bring up are all, I'll say, things that you've heard about in recent email strings. But before I do that, I want to welcome Steve Bryan on board. So many of you have heard that Steve, who is at the University of Utah, has agreed to come back. There, he shows his face. He's there. Give him the wave, Steve. Steve is going to be back here hopefully in the July-August timeframe. Permanently, like myself. I've actually got a house here. He's got to find a house and move. But I will say, and by the way, any of you living in Tuscaloosa should know the real estate market here is really tight. So just beware of it. It's unbelievable. It's hard to find a house here right now. But Steve is going to come in, and he is going to be sitting in between the College of Engineering and the Alabama Water Institute. And I just want everybody to be aware, this is something that I'm advocating for so that we can matrix capabilities across arts and sciences, engineering, and the departments underneath, biology, chemical engineering, so that we're integrated. And I think many of you have heard me make this statement, right? We want to be as integrated as the environment we're trying to predict. It is really important that we try and build those interconnects, because those interconnects are going to allow what to do is bigger. If we want to create something where the whole is greater than the sum of the parts, we've got to be integrated. So, and I want to thank Steve and call him out one more time, because he has done a tremendous job trying to balance his time at Utah with his arrival here at Alabama in terms of what we were doing as it relates to the last two topics, which are the Noaa Cooperative Institute and the Us Geological Survey Cooperative Research Agreement. So let me begin with the Noaa CI, just to make sure folks understand what's going on in that space. I see the Noaa CI as pivotal, critical, crucial. Pick the word in the sense of urgency in terms of really showing that Alabama, our faculty, you, in concert with other leading members of the hydrologic community, we're putting ourselves on the map. And so we've had long discussions with folks at the National Water Center. We've had a lot of discussions with people around the community. We've talked to the various heads and key members of cooperative institutes that currently exist across the country to understand how to best formulate this. And so I can tell you, one of the things that I am working hard to do is to make sure that as much money comes back to the science and we can retain as much in Alabama. Now, let me be clear, when we build these cooperative institutes, we select teammates for technical credibility. We also want to see if they've got good connections to people that can help ensure we get resources for this institute over time, okay? And also people that we enjoy working with and who we think are doing some novel research. While I can't right now spout out all the names because we have non-disclosures in place, I can tell you right now there's probably going to be 15 to 20 different teammates on the team. And for FY21, Congress has appropriated $15 million to Noaa for the CI. I can tell you that we are working to add an additional $5 million in the FY22 budget and an additional $10 million in FY23. So the period of performance for the Noaa Cooperative Institute is going to be a 5 and 5, 5 years and 5 years. And so if you do the numbers, that's $125 million over the first 5. And that should be exciting. And what really makes it exciting is that we're going to be the focal point. We're going to be the prime. And a lot of the work that's going to go out to various institutions will pass through to us. So this is something to keep in mind as you're doing your research, to think about if there's somebody you want to team with. You can also write proposals where you team with somebody. Okay? It's a very flexible instrument. Steve Bryan is going to be the technical PI lead on it. And we believe, based on conversations we've had with Noaa, the RFP is probably going to come out in the July timeframe. And it'll be a quick turnaround. hopefully award by the end of the year, because that was written into the report language that Congress put out. And hopefully the dollars will start to flow, I'll say, in the May, June timeframe of calendar year 22. Now, we don't control that money, so this is what we've heard. Obviously, my promise to you is the sooner we can get that going, the better for everybody. And I will say that we're getting tremendous support from folks up in the Office of Research and Economic Development. I know sometimes I criticize lawyers, okay? In this case, I want to thank Colin Rich up there. Colin has been doing a great job for us getting non-disclosure agreements in place with all of our teammates. This is a big deal. And so we're almost there. We're going to start negotiating pieces. And I think I've told most of you, these 2-pagers are like puzzle pieces. We're going to take those puzzle pieces and start building the hydrologic cycle end-to-end mosaic, if you will, for what this Cooperative Institute is going to be. Okay, so, and I'll hold for questions. I'm sure there are probably some questions on this at the end. The second piece related to this is the US Geological Survey. And I really want to thank folks at the survey, Don Klein and Nate Booth. I don't know if any of you have worked with them, but they have come forward and have asked us to come forward with some ideas to them to fund research before the hydrologic instrumentation facility is built. So that's why you're getting this call for the USGS 2-pagers. And so what they'd like to do in the document that I sent out, right, you saw where they're looking for some areas for help, where we could build some capacity to help. I would encourage you to look at that. I wanted to share that with you because that's the example of some of the communications that I get from federal agencies. I have no problem sharing that with you. And it gives you a good flavor of where they're trying to go in terms of their research. And it also gives you an idea where they say that we have strengths and where we can do some improvement. And so that helps guide, hopefully, some of your thoughts on, gee, who do we hire or where can we play to our strengths? I would encourage you to really think about that. I do not know right now how much money the survey has, okay, but this money, okay, could be executed in fiscal year 21, which is this year and ends on September 30th. They believe that they're going to have extra money. And I will say that I am working with ORED and I'm working with our partners in the systems office to see if we can add more money to the USGS budget to continue this in the out years. So this nexus between USGS research really looks quite good for a lot of reasons. And I say this, I'm excited from the standpoint of they're complementary, and it really shows our capabilities to the larger hydrologic community that they're seeking this status from us. And just one finer point here, Noaa competes their cooperative institutes. The USGS actually picks them by themselves. So that's why we kind of have the difference. So, and the great thing is USGS is ready to work with us. I mean, they've indicated that to us. And again, I want to thank Steve Burry and Mike Gramillion working on that. The final thing before we go to Q&A, because I don't want to take up too much time, but Mike Gramillion has been working very hard on his Global Water Security Center. We're starting to make some inroads there. We've hired a couple of undergraduates. Things are going very well on that effort. I'm optimistic that we're going to see funding in FY22 for that in the range of 6 to 8 million. And this is a different center. It's more like the Alabama Transportation Institute, what Alan Parrish is doing, because it's more operational. How do we take science and create products that look at risk and do risk analysis and understand exactly what's going on in certain spaces, politically and geopolitically, in places like Africa, where drought and water problems can lead to conflict. If we can see signals from the environment that suggest that those conflicts are going to occur before they happen, this is a really good thing for society. We can avoid conflict and do some good things for society. So that's kind of where we are. That's the quick snapshot. What I wanted to do at this point is open up to Q&A. And my promise as always is if I can't answer the question or if I don't know, I will get back to you individually. But let me open up the floor and feel free to, any questions you might have, go right ahead. And you can ask him of Steve Burrian too, by the way. He can be put on the spot. It's not a problem. Okay. Prabhakar, I was sure that you would ask a question. Nothing.
No, today has been a busy day so far. So.
Okay. Well, while people are thinking, let me a couple more points.
So when is USGS physically moving here? Do you know?
So what we do know, great question. What we've heard is that USGS is prepared to move 12 people into the National Water Center. They want to move them in the next 3 to 6 months. Okay. And so, but it's interesting. I've been talking to Ed Clark at the Water Center. Right now, the guidance at the federal level is they're not going to move in back into the NWC operationally. They're moving in fits and spurts during events like we have today. But they let me say this. They, from what I'm hearing, probably not until the fall. So we are working with that group, okay, to try and figure out exactly what it is they want to do. So and I'll say it's a big day for the Water Center tomorrow because they're actually releasing their spring flood outlook. So I would encourage all of you, okay, to watch that as an opportunity, I guess, to use social media to see what's kind of going on and push the word out about why this outlook is important. And that's a great example of one of the seasonal products that NWC is developing. But USGS, the facility, I can say on that, Prabhakar, that the idea here is that they're going to turn dirt, we've been told, in the June, July timeframe of this year. And it's probably going to take a year to 18 months to finish the building. Having worked with the General Services Administration, which oversees the building of federal facilities, it takes a while. I will say they're nice facilities. And I don't know if folks here have seen the blueprints, but the building is going to go up on the bluff right next to Cyber Hall here that overlooks the Black Warrior River. It is really, it's a beautiful building. It has been very well designed. I give a lot of credit to Tim Leopard and his folks in facilities and the folks at USGS that have designed this. And on the backside, there's going to be a place where if you want to go grab lunch looking out over the river, you can. They're going to try and make it as open a campus as possible. We all have to be cognizant of the fact that it is a federal facility and they have different physical security requirements than we might have at the university. So I can also tell you, we negotiated very hard. I don't think it's a secret now, but there's got to be some space in there, swing space for Alabama researchers. So I would encourage you to think about, if you're looking at 18 months to 2 years, and there's something that you would want to do that's inside the HIF's mission, where you would want to second somebody or one of your postdocs, please think about that as an opportunity, right? Because it's what we want to do, right? We'd like to create a pipeline out of the university to USGS and Noaa where possible. So, other questions, comments?
So, Scott, this is Ray White. I missed the first few minutes. You may have already said this, but how many white papers have you already have received?
So on the Noaa CI, we have about 10, okay, inside the Alabama system. And I want to say we have 6 on the USGS Cooperative Research Agreement. Okay,
because I believe your announcement went out to the AWI listserv, but there's many researchers that John Wiest and Jim Cochran and I got compiled that are not on the AWI listserv, and so I'm thinking of targeting the people we had on this large compilation with the white paper of the USGS. To how many are you looking for?
I'll take as many as possible.
Okay.
So let me build on that, Ray, and tell them to continue to send them in. Okay, this is not going to be a 1-year deal. So, and I want to make this abundantly clear to people on the Noaa Cooperative Institute and the USGS opportunities. This is not a one-shot funding opportunity. We intend to get it funded over time. So we want to phase things. So we want to phase proposals. And right now, it's very clear. I think you saw this in the USGS document. There's a focus on observational capabilities. How do we improve some of this instrumentation? Okay. So we should think about that as an opportunity, but then it can morph into other things. And if there are new products or new capabilities, if there's a new way we want to visualize something, by all means, okay, let's make sure we put that forward, because there might be ideas that USGS has not thought of. On the Noaa Cooperative Institute, the 2 pages that are going in from the University of Alabama have to be intertwined with the stuff that our partners are submitting. Okay. And we're going to sit down and have to figure out how to kind of carve out what we want to do, what they want to do. But the reason we like to see growing budgets is we can do more in the out years and phase stuff. Okay. I will say that the Noaa and USGS opportunities you should think of as longer term. It's not a one-year deal. Think, the idea of doing it in 1 year is ridiculous to me. To me, research is more of a 3 to 5 year enterprise. Okay. And I think we're going to take, on the USGS example, we're going to take these papers, have an iterative discussion with USGS to make sure we're hitting the mark. And then the idea is we submit a proposal to them for this year, and we're going to move as fast as possible on that. And what I'm excited about is, USGS has been very open about, hey, we think we can seed some stuff in FY21. So let me make another point that Ray talked about. In the NOAA Cooperative Institute, we have $15 million in hand, but we're going to write a proposal when it comes out that's going to be higher than that. We're going to probably aim for about $35 million worth of program. Okay. So Mike Vermillion and I often talk this way. In the military, we talk about resources and requirements. Okay. Do we have more mission than money? And the answer is, of course you do. Okay. So we came from a world where if you had enough money to meet your mission, they would take your money and tell you to go away. What we want to show is that there's a lot of research that's got to be done, but we only have so much money. And we're going to try and show that in the initial proposal. That is guidance that we've received from a lot of different people at other CIs. They were like, write a big proposal. Okay. And then you can grow into it. The proposal, the NOAA Cooperative Institute is going to have a ceiling. Okay. I don't know what that ceiling is, but let me just give you an example. In FY21, budget year 21, we have $15 million in hand. NOAA has $15 million bucks. If we write to 30 and they put a ceiling at 50, the reason that's important is there's something called the Economy Act. Under the Economy Act, other agencies that do research in water sciences, water engineering can pass money through the Cooperative Institute to you. Okay. And it counts against the bucket. It's a contractual term called filling the bucket up. And as we move forward on this Cooperative Institute, I would encourage you to think about non-NOAA partners or other parts of NOAA other than the Weather Service that you want to work with. So, for example, Bezod does work with the Integrated Ocean Observing System at NOAA. That's part of the National Ocean Service. It's not part of the National Weather Service. We should think about who are some of the other partners that we can bring in and help them work with us as partners. So, and Mike, myself, others will help. And I should just add that Jim Riley's on board, the former USGS director. He is frozen the way that government SES rules work, or political appointment rules. He cannot work back on water issues. Okay. But a year from now, he can. So, just that's another asset that's going to be coming into play for all of you, which is, hey, I want to understand the kind of this federal funding the federal funding architecture for water sciences and water engineering. Okay. And let me make sure I throw in there too, the social science piece, because I've gotten a lot of email inquiries on that. Okay. Communicating risk is really important. Okay. Very important. On a day like today, particularly down here with this tornado watch, it's critical people understand what that means. And so I want to make sure that, yes, we've got the science, the engineering, but again, communicating that in a way so people understand risk and make good decisions is really important. Other questions, comments? Okay, everybody's running to their shelter right now? Okay. I would encourage people to continue to get in, Ray, and feel free to share what we're doing in the USGS space and the CI space with your Alabama colleagues. Obviously, we put on the NOAA CI one. We want to keep that fairly tight inside Alabama. And I think if you start talking to some of your colleagues at other institutions, you might figure out who the team is. At some point, we're going to brief everybody on kind of where the team is, but I can tell you the next steps are to take all these 2-pagers, again, build that mosaic. Steve Bergen and I are going to sit down and have a discussion about how to look at allocations inside Alabama, but with our partners, because we don't get all the money, but we can leverage the partnerships. Okay. And so that's one of the things that we are going to look at, but I can tell you've seen some of the theme areas. We really think that there isn't anything in this space that we don't cover. I have to say this, right? The report language that was written to support the NOAA Cooperative Institute very much mimics what's in the AWI strategic plan. And shortly, when it comes out, the Office of Hydrology and the National Weather Service is going to put out their strategic plan. And I think, call this a hunch, you're going to see tremendous alignment between all three. Okay? And that should play to everybody on this Zoom, right? There's a real opportunity here for us to align our research with what NOAA is trying to do. And I've told people this, and I want to make sure you really understand this. NOAA does not do hydrologic research. They don't have a lab that even goes in any part of this field. They have hydrometeorology, but not really what we're doing. And that's why the Cooperative Institute is inside the Weather Service. I was talking to Louis Uccellini, who's the head of the Weather Service this past weekend as the snow was piling up on my house in Colorado. And, he is excited at the prospect that if we can get this to work, we can show this transition of research into operations in a much smoother path. And I will say it can fundamentally change the way we start thinking about how research universities move stuff across. So let me stop there. Questions or comments? Anything else? We are
Scott,
Hamid, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yes, no problem. You mentioned that USGS is moving about 12 people to the National Weather Center as part of their mission. I think they are hiring because they've been advertising here and there. And some of the areas look like more of a research oriented positions. So how can we make sure that there is no conflict of interest or we do not overlap with what we do here and with what they do there, and we can distinguish our mission or differentiate our mission clearly, that things do not get mixed up?
So I wish I could control some of their research directions. I don't get to pick that. But what we're trying to do is find those areas that are complementary to your point. And so, because the last thing we want to do is have that competition. I think once we get all the information, these 2-pagers collected for both NOAA and USGS, it's going to put us in a much better position to sit down and have that conversation about conflict. I see more conflict, frankly, on the GS side than I would necessarily on the NOAA side, because it's not been a NOAA area of focus. And obviously, I've got a little bit of familiarity from my background with Wharf Hydro and how Wharf Hydro became the current operational model. But it's also clear to me that the next generation water model is probably not going to be a Wharf Hydro based system. I think that the NWC wants to go in a different direction. I'm not saying it's wrong or it's right. They're the customer. They get to pick which way they go. But to your point, Hamid, I think once we get some of this information together, we're going to be in a much stronger position to understand exactly how this is going to play out. I don't want to compete, frankly, with government researchers directly, but where we can work with them in concert to do something bigger. That's how I would encourage people to think. Does that answer your question?
Sure, that was helpful. Yeah, I think the conversation always helps because some of these positions, as I saw them, they are pretty research oriented, and even some USGS folks contacted me, said, okay, we want to hire these people doing research in these areas. And I was confused. Are they in the mission of operation, or they want to do some research? And what would be the contribution of researchers from this cooperative institute that can be integrated with the mission of National Weather Center and USGS, of course?
Yeah, so let me address that, because I know based on conversations I had with the NWC, originally USGS wanted to move some of that money through the Alabama Cooperative Institute with Maryland, but they've decided, well, they're still trying to decide how they're going to move that, but it was to get people here to help with the operation. The hard part is going to be recruiting these people. Okay, so we've already had discussions with USGS and with NOAA. Okay, because what we really want to do is get those people here to Tuscaloosa on campus for a variety of reasons. And I'm telling you this because there were a lot of calls based on what was out there. There was a Twitter note that went out from USGS said, hey, we're hiring in Tuscaloosa. So they're not there yet. We're still in negotiation about how that money is going to pass from USGS to, or how they're going to do that. it's an issue of, are they going to go through Alabama? Are they going to go through UCAR? It is to be determined. But I know they're working through that process right now. I would encourage all of you, please reach out to your colleagues if they're interested. These federal jobs are great jobs. And I can tell you that we're probably going to see in the future term, we're going to see Noaa, and particularly NWC, asking us to help find some of these people. So if there's folks out there that you know, by all means, tell them, get a resume to myself, get it to Mike Gramillion. I do think there's going to be some great opportunities in the future. What I would like to do, and I hope you would work with me on this, is to grow these people here at Alabama and become a straight shot pipeline to both the NWC and the HIF. Okay, this is a great opportunity for the students you're teaching, you're mentoring, they're gaining great knowledge from you, taking them and then putting them into the world. And while they, they might say, well, it's not a long walk from, the engineering quad to the HIF. It's the next spot, right? They're going to leave the HIF at some point, and they might go work for USGS out in Palo Alto or out in Golden, okay, or up in the Dakotas. But they started here, and that will really help our reputation.
Hey, Scott, I got a quick question for you. So I do have a bunch of faculty who are slightly different. They do water work in terms of technology, right? So they build treatment processes, they build monitoring technologies. And now if you look at the new NSF, apparently NSF is planning to do a one complete division on technology-based funding. So I was wondering, strategically, we can put these guys, when they talk to me, I can put these guys into either Noaa or USGS. How do we build that? That's a very important. I mean, I'm all for modeling and assessment, right? But in the end, you got to solve the damn problem, which is you got to come up with wastewater treatment technology or a water treatment technology, right? So where do they fit in your vision? I'm not talking about now, 1 year, 2 year. I'm talking about in the long term. Where do you think they fit in?
So I actually think we've got to create an additional center in that space. Okay. I mean, so if I'm emperor for a day, I would create a center that addresses that area. And I'll just say this too, as a caveat, Prabhakar, I am very concerned about this new technology crosscut at NSF. Okay. So just so folks are aware, they're standing up a new capability inside the foundation. And what makes me nervous is it was backed by Google and Microsoft and a few little companies you might have heard of. And I am reluctant to cede the research ground at NSF to large companies that can afford to pay for their own research. Okay. So there's a huge political debate over this new group. Okay. I would encourage all of you, if you have a policy bent in terms of legislation, look at the Endless Frontiers Act that Majority Leader Schumer is pushing, right? He loves the National Science Foundation. There's a potential push to double it. I do think that NSF, we do need to have a look at NSF in terms of how it's currently organized for research success. And let me say, I sent out a note on this. The assistant director for the geosciences is a guy named Bill Easterling. Many of you might have heard of Bill. He's out of Penn State. Bill's going to be stepping down, but NSF has a process where they rotate people through very senior positions. I understand when it started why it was a real benefit to academic communities like ours, because Bill understood what was going on in the different communities. But the herky-jerky movement of the budget cycles has made it incredibly difficult for these rotators to get anything done in 4 years. Okay? We can throw darts at who to blame. I'm not going to do that. But there's now a big move based on conversations I've had with congressional staff and folks in the administration. And this was true in the previous administration as with the current administration. They want to actually put career people into the NSF AD slots. Okay. So, but to your point, to you, Prabhakar, let me just finish on this. Panchanathan, who's the head of NSF, is a big cyber informatics guy. Okay. Came out of Arizona State. And I would encourage all of us to think about this. His space is about making the research usable. Now, that's not always been NSF's domain. NSF has said we're pure fundamental research. And what I see going on is everybody loves NSF so much, I'll say congressionally, that they're being given some more mission-directed stuff that's kind of different than their purview. So I'm waiting to see how that's going to play. But I think Prabhakar, we should stand up some sort of internal group to address this very issue you're talking about, because you're right. It's going to be really important to our future. And to me, it's a center of its own. It's a technology crosscut. If I could build it, that's how I would do it. And feel free to push back on me. And to me, things like observations are crosscuts. And if there's ways that we can matrix, I see AWI, right, as a matrix. My job is to serve you and be an integrator to create results from the research community at Alabama, where, again, the whole is greater than the sum of the parts.
Yeah, so I mean, basically with all the infrastructure pressure coming up, right? I do see, and I'm not talking about 1 year, 2 year down the line, water treatment, wastewater treatment, that area is going to have a huge investment. I don't know how we are going to play that. And we do have some good faculty who work in that area. And when they come and talk to me, I'm just always looking for some opportunities. It's hard for me to tell them, write something for Noaa CI or USGS. It doesn't fit in. So we need some strategic thinking on that. Basically.
Let me just say, I hear you, but I'd rather have them write something. So if it's not Noaa or it's not USGS, maybe we go to EPA and we share that concept with EPA,
okay,
or we
so,
share it.
You would still encourage them to write the white paper.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. You're gonna laugh at me. So again, I have to apologize. I worked for 2 Navy admirals in my career. They were both retired. Okay. I'd rather have ammunition, research ammunition, that I can put on a customer. Okay. Saying, hey, here's something that's emerging. I like what you're bringing here, because to me, this is emerging. This is looking around a corner. Okay. And so I like it from the idea of, okay, get us this. If Noaa's not the right consumer of that research, Prabhakar, and USGS is not the right consumer, maybe there's somebody is who we need to talk to. Okay. And we can, I'd rather have that in hand in terms of, hey, look, this is a capability that we have and other people don't have it. I mean, I don't know how many of you are on LinkedIn, because I follow a lot of you on LinkedIn, and I'm going to call out Malad Esfahani here, right? I love the stuff you're putting on LinkedIn on your membrane stuff. Keep doing that, okay?
Thank you.
Because I take that, what I do is I take that and I send that to program managers that I know. I would encourage all of you to think about LinkedIn as a tool, because it's not just a business tool, it's a research tool. Okay. And you can use it as a way to push your research out there into a different domain. And I'll say that I recently turned over my LinkedIn account to show that I'm now with AWI. And what happens is a lot of people from business are like, hey, I want to talk to you. And that's exactly what I want to do. I think in some of this work too, Prabhakar, we all think about the government as a funding source. Okay. I really think too, we should think about, is there something the private sector could bring here, or a foundation? Foundations are wonderful places to work with. Okay. I worked with Rockefeller on the Census of Marine Life in my past, right? We went out and tried to count biomass in the oceans. And I tell you what, Rockefeller was a thrill to work with. It was very easy. We have a struggle with indirect cost rates and stuff like that, but let me worry about that. Let me help you, because there's ways to do this. But anything that you can do, and again, I'm calling out Malad here, because where we can push this stuff out there, it really helps. I know Hamid has done some great, I mean, when Hamid got his award from the American Society for Civil Engineering, right? I immediately took that and sent that to people. Those nuggets are gold. Let me add one more thing in this context, and then I got to make 2 other comments, and I'll let you come back to me because they just popped in my head. So the other piece, okay, on the whole LinkedIn thing is now this thing called News Tide. Oh no, I'm frozen. Hang on, can you hear me? Okay, I'm going to keep talking, but all right, that's better. Sorry. Scott Rayder frozen. That would be a nightmare. We now have this thing called News Tide. Okay. And I don't know if Mark Elliott's on or Carl Atkinson, but we're featuring people. We're featuring you on a newsletter that goes to Capitol Hill. Okay. And right now, we're the only group across the entire university that's doing it. I would encourage you to think of content. If there's a story that you'd like to tell, by all means, get it to Brock Parker, David Gallinette, myself, Mike, because these are really important. I send this out about once a month, and I think some of you get the News Tide subscription. If not, let me know because you should be getting it. The feedback has been tremendous. Okay, and who do we send this to? We send this to the appropriation staff, the people that fund the research. Okay, and we get some good questions. So I can tell you that some of the work that Carla had done and some of the stuff that Mark Elliott had done, particularly in the Black Belt region, in terms of trying to improve things down there in terms of the water quality, water access, water justice, if you will. That got great, tremendous feedback from staff, but it also goes to other people in the community, and it also helps build our brand. So please, 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 if you've got stories that you think we can take and push out there, okay? When we get stories, I'll say for awards, I love awards, okay? I like to put that information into that newsletter because it allows me to send it to federal program managers, okay? Say, look, did you know that a professor, a researcher at University of Alabama did this cutting edge research? Hey, you ought to fund more of this. So please, those stories are incredibly important to us. The other thing that we love are snappy graphics. I think it was either Nick Tu or Greg Guthrie. They sent a nice piece over from the Geological Survey. There's a really nice map of Alabama with some information on it that I had never seen. Okay, we love snappy graphics. Okay, staff on Capitol Hill, and I worked there for 4 years. I did a year in the Senate and 3 years in the House. I love to be able to look at a graphic that I could say, oh, gee, this graphic really tells a story. And we like that. So, and I know in some ways, some of you say, I don't know how to think that way. Send us more. Okay. We will work with you because we want to tell your story. Because by telling your story, we raise your profile. So that's the first thing. Second thing, I forgot to mention this, but this is a big deal. So everybody needs to keep April 20th to 24th in 2022 open on your calendar. We've got agreement from the American Water Resources Association. They're hosting their big meeting here in Tuscaloosa over that time period. This is going to be a great opportunity for you, okay, to work with your colleagues, okay, and showcase what we're doing. I am optimistic by the time that this conference comes in, that the HIF will be building underway. Hopefully we'll have our Cooperative Institute award in hand. The money may not be moving, but it's a great opportunity for us to showcase the great things that we're doing. And this is the knock on wood moment. We believe, it has not been confirmed yet, but there was a conversation last week inside the White House. If you'll remember, the previous administration created this thing called the Water Subcabinet. It was all the senior level career people that are dealing with water across the United States government, the federal government. We believe that the Water Subcabinet is going to host a meeting in Tuscaloosa at the same time as the AWRA meeting. So, think good thoughts here because this is a great opportunity for us to showcase what you are doing. And we will have slots at that meeting to talk about our research, why it's important, and talk to the people who make decisions about resources. I forgot to put that in there, but that's kind of important. Other questions or comments, please? And you can criticism are fine too. If there's something not working or there's something I can help you with, let me know. All right. Okay, folks, one last thing. I want to thank everybody for your submission of your fellows. We are looking through that. We've set up a committee to review them. I want to thank everybody for the feedback. So one of the things I heard early on was find us more money. Okay, and I will just say that I've done some clever maneuvering with Stephanie O'Neill here to free up some dollars for those fellowships. So we're going to convene a panel on this, a committee. I just want to let folks know where that stands. Stephanie just sent out, by the way, if you go to the chat function, you'll see the information on the upcoming conference. But I would encourage you, I encourage you to look at that and mark time on your calendar. It's going to be a great event for our community here. But I want to thank everybody for the input on the fellows. We got great feedback. We got a lot of nominations. So you've made the job difficult for the selection committee. So I say thank you because I know a lot of times it's a pain to write up something on a colleague and nominate them for something. But I want to thank you because I'll just say some of the cross-fertilization and some of the justifications that you put in those have been outstanding. So thank you. Let me just see if there's anything else in chat before I sign off because I don't want to get myself in trouble here. Okay. Last chance, questions, comments? Okay, I appreciate everybody's time. Thank you again for all that you're doing. If there's something, again, in this town hall, if there's something that you didn't want to bring up that you want to talk to me about, please reach out to me. We'll set up a time to talk about it individually. And again, if there's a contact or something that you need from myself or Mike Vermillion or some help with something, we're here to help you. We're here to serve you. So with that, thanks again, everybody. I appreciate your time and looking forward to having a great spring and getting together